Good morning. We do not have a quorum yet, something about an 8 o'clock meeting during the last week of session, while conference committee hearings are meeting well past midnight, I guess, makes that a bit of a challenge. So what we're going to do is just go through this report, entertain any committee discussion or testimony, I suppose, if anybody's here. I suspect we won't hear a lot of that. And then we will find a time during the day today to probably gather over at the Capitol someplace while we're in session and find a time when we have a quorum. We have 12 sets of minutes and a report to approve, and that's the substance of the agenda. So I'm just going to talk about it briefly. This has been, I think, posted as of yesterday. The report could be seen as sort of the most academically sourced and notes intensive set of meeting minutes of all time, because what this substance of this report is the information that was presented to the committee during its hearings on various topics that are reflected here. It includes testimony from the public as we've gone around the state. It reflects public testimony from people here at the Capitol. And the goal is not to, from my point of view, the goal is not to come up with a 5-point plan that looks sort of like a pat answer to how to address this complex question of why Minnesota's economy is producing too few living wage jobs, and rather to fully understand what that complexity is, to look at various policy initiatives that can address many of these points, and really not create a set of bullet points like in a campaign, but to set up a set of challenges that will be complicated and long-term for Minnesota to deal with. So the report is divided into two big sections. The first is entitled Minnesota's Economy is Producing Too Few Living Wage Jobs, and that really examines the state of the economy for workers who are engaged in the workforce or marginally engaged in the workforce and still struggling to make enough money to support themselves and their families. There was obviously a lot of discussion about that during the living wage debate, but during the minimum wage debate, but minimum wage is really only one small part of this broader picture that we're looking at. The second part of the report is entitled Minnesota Can Pursue a Living Wage Jobs Agenda, and that again is not intended to have a simple, easy set of policy initiatives that the legislature could put in the form of a bill and pass. It really is talking about the ways in which you have to restructure the way the labor market works and the way the economy is producing jobs in order to create more of them that can sustain workers and their families. It does talk about a few broad policy areas and addresses the question of whether education on its own is the answer for all of this. My conclusion is that it's not. But there are a number of things that we can do. Education is an important part of a solution, but it's not the total picture. I should also note that this report was primarily drafted by Ann Markison, who is a committee consultant. She's retired just in the last 2 years from the Humphrey School of Public Affairs. She's a labor economist, is very widely known, and is hard to get time with to be at our committee because she's busy traveling the world, teaching courses, presenting papers, and doing all the things that high-caliber academics do. And so she enlisted Corrine Moe from the Economics Department of McAllister to assist in putting together the information. So the last thing I guess I would just say is that I had hoped when we started this project that we would have a set of bills ready to go at the beginning of this legislative session, and that we could put those on the agenda and move a number of them. In working on the minimum wage issue, however, I just learned something, and I think we learned something from some of the people we heard from in the committee, and that is that making these kinds of changes is very, very difficult. Even in a situation in which the DFL party is in control of the House and Senate and has a DFL governor, at the leadership spot, the desire to kind of preserve the status quo is very, very strong. And the amount of work and effort that it took in order to pass a minimum wage bill this year was consuming a lot more of my time than I expected. It put a number of other issues on the back burner. But it also showed that the path forward for a lot of these things is not through legislators deciding what to do at the state capitol. It is engaging in or engaging a coalition of people from all over the state, all over the nation, and all over the world right now, in fact, to begin to address these questions. Because the challenges that we face in Minnesota are not unique. In many ways, we're better off than a lot of other places. Even our low-paid workers are better off than they are in a lot of places. But still, the challenge of working harder, a growing economy producing fewer good jobs is a international problem. And only by engaging people who are affected by that, who are paying the price for that, can we make any real effort to change it. And so I think, at least from my point of view, what this report does is set up a list of challenges. I think the solution is not in a clear set of policy initiatives that the legislature would pass or the Congress would pass, but it is in engaging people in addressing these challenges in 1,000 ways and building the kind of momentum and the kind of movement coalition that actually can make the difference in the long run. And so there are a lot of things we can do, but the main thing we need to do, in my opinion, is to get organized. So that's the essence of the report of the Select Committee. I don't know if there's any discussion. Representative Radinovich?
Well,
You're always good for a comment.
Yeah, at least a few. Well, thank you, Chair Winkler. Certainly appreciate the opportunity to serve on this committee. Found the information that we were presented in several of the committee meetings to be very compelling, and found the opportunity to travel the state to at least a few of the satellite committee meetings that we had, an opportunity to sort of see how the ideas that we had heard discussed operated in real life. I am also appreciative of your efforts this year and understand the great difficulty it took to pass a minimum wage increase, and so that would be one of the highlights of this session for me. Now, I think that I haven't had a chance to fully review the report yet. Obviously, I've been presented with a lot of this information, and the idea of education, as someone who serves on the education committees, to me is near and dear, and I tend to, I think, like a lot of people, perhaps get overinvested in the outcome that education can produce. And in relation to the minimum wage debate, one of the things I had heard frequently said was that, what these people need, these people being those working at the bottom of the scale, is just the opportunity to educate themselves and to, sort of move up and to have a better paying job. To which I think the appropriate response is yes, but there are always going to be people who are working at the convenience stores. There are always going to be people who are working in these places where low wages are prevalent. And unfortunately, I think one of the things that we learned in this committee was that some of the fastest growing sectors of the economy are those that pay the lowest wages. And the question that I think we find ourselves confronting is exactly how do you have an economy that, or what can be done rather to have an economy that values the work that they're doing and provides them with a wage that, frankly, is able to support themselves. I think that if there's one idea that I've observed in this committee that is perhaps most heartbreaking, and this is for me as an observer, although our legislative salaries aren't robust in their own right, but is that somebody could work full time and not have what it takes to support themselves. And to me, that breaks the idea that you'll be rewarded for your work. And once that idea is broken, I think that it's got, and we've seen some of the effects that it has on communities, on individuals, and on their own personal lives. So I don't know how to proceed from here, other than to I think continue to direct the focus of our efforts and of community groups and of all of those who've been part of the coalition to raise the wage towards the next steps. And so to that end, I appreciate your work, and it's been an honor to be on the committee.
Thank you. Representative Ward.
Thank you, Chair Winkler, and I'd like to thank the committee and the staff for the work that they've done. It's been quite a journey.
Quite a
One-
few journeys.
That's true, around the state. When I was teaching in Seattle, Washington, many years ago, part of my teaching was in vocational education, focused on the hospitality industry. And at the time, there was a really robust community college focused on hospitality industry training. And a leader in that group was saying the future of our economy is in the service industry. And I wondered at the time what that would really mean, what that would look like. But that's taken on new meaning as I've traveled the state with you, and we've looked at these issues, because it's more than just the quick stop people, and it isn't, I think, the vision that this gentleman had about hospitality industry being living wage jobs for people. So the whole service economy thing I think we've really moved in that direction, but for different reasons than he was thinking, because we had no idea then that manufacturing was going to go the way that it has. That Boeing, for instance, which was, at that time, Seattle was a one-horse town. It was Boeing. And the economy, the whole economy in Seattle and that Pacific Northwest area rose or fall, or would rise or fall with the military contracts associated with Boeing aircraft. So I've just appreciated the insights, the learning, the work that the staff and that you have done. And I feel like I have a lot more processing to do, and look forward to future conversations so that we can get to the point where we have, I think we do need some legislation to help move things along and define what can and should be done to make it different. But maybe we do some more community conversations around the state as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Representative Ward. Unless you are concerned, this report is chock full of policy ideas and recommendations based on what is happening in other states related to all of these issue areas. So there's plenty of those. Does anybody from the audience wish to say anything? As I suspected not. I should, just one other comment. A couple of days, maybe a week after we passed the minimum wage bill, I went and had breakfast with two restaurant owners, people who reached out and said, why did this sort of happen the way it happened this year? They wanted a tip credit. They didn't understand kind of why that wasn't part of the discussion. And they said that they are concerned about the future of the economy. They're concerned about all the low-wage jobs out there. They know that things have to be done. And they asked how could their trade group or their industry be more of a constructive participant in that change that the economy has to take. And I think that would be my invitation to any of the business community who sees this effort to change the lowering wage model of the economy and say, how can we do it differently? And not just, we can make the economy grow bigger. Education, transportation, investments are things that Democrats believe in. A streamlined regulatory environment, minimal government interference to let markets fully grow and develop are things that Republicans tend to believe in. All of those things are playing a role in growth. But what is happening is that the growth is not generating the quality of life that it once did because it is so concentrated. So the invitation I would have is to representatives of the business community, how can we make the economy work more for the people who are doing the work? We can make it grow bigger, and we can have debates about how to do that, and we will, and we have, and Minnesota is a success because of an effective business community, because of a clean government that generally makes pretty wise decisions about investments. We're growing the pie, but the slices are not being divvied out like they once were. And so I think that is a good question that we should all be engaged in. And I hope not in an adversarial way all the time, but at times in a way that we can actually figure out how to create more demand and how to get more consumers more money in their pockets to buy the things that the businesses are selling and to make the economy grow better. So I hope that we can engage in that discussion going forward. And if there's nothing further, we are going to be in recess to the call of the chair with the time in the room to be announced, but it'll be sometime during the day when we can find some more members. Thank you.